2.
Live.
You are live, Tom.
Chris, how you doing, bud? You can take
All
it from
right.
here?
Yeah, I can see. Hey, man, this is going to be an awesome show. Like I said once before, man, appreciate all the time from all you guys taking the time out of the day and get into our little virtual bubble, man. Get out of the ruckus of what's happening in the world and in our country right now, and kind of reminisce from the past, bring us all to the future in our world, and take it over, Tom. Let's get it rolling.
Chris, it's good to see you again in person, man, on the show. It's been a while since we've had Chris Ronquillo. Chris is one of the main guys that got MMA Fight Pass started here with Archie Tovar. And Chris is the reason why I'm on the show hosting it. If it wasn't for Chris, I wouldn't be here. So thank you, Chris Ronquillo, for stepping in. And guys, we got a heck of a show today. We got back-to-back shows. We're going to start the show off with two awesome people. As you guys can see on the lower corner here, we got Cung Le, a legend in the kickboxing Sanshou MMA world. And up in the top corner here, we got Don Mcguire, guys. A lot of you guys may not know. I'm just getting to know Don myself. He's the head of the Fighter's Voice. Chris, why don't you break down Don a little bit for the crowd here?
Okay, well, Don Mcguire is an OG, man. He's been around the sport for a long time, basically kind of like how I started, from the boxing side. And then, as MMA got a little better through the years and a little bit, even in the dark ages, Don was involved in that. But, the guy has a huge voice, a huge connection, a lot of respect through the fighters, through promotions. Anybody that's who in the combat sports, they know Don Mcguire, man. I mean, I could stay here and list names off the top of my head. Anybody you think of from the boxing world, Larry Holmes, Sugar Ray Leonard, whoever, Don has that connection. And we're honored today to help us connect with, obviously, Mr. Cung Le, which is appreciated. Don, tell us a little bit about yourself and a couple little stories and stuff you might be able to share with us today. And so we go forward to educate those young bucks that aren't up to speed yet.
Well, I'm a really humble guy. Cung will tell you this, and that's how we really got to meet each other. I started out in boxing, and I kind of transitioned a little bit over to Muay Thai, and I kind of fell in love with the inception of the sport of MMA when it was just in its infancy. I was in Pride and Glory, and then the UFC came around, and it kind of piqued my interest, and I wanted to become multifaceted, and I always believed that diversity was the key. And so I got to meet and shoot people like, Cung Le and others in my walk, and I've always been the guy that in the shadows. I've never been one to want to talk about myself or give myself any credit, because what we do in the sport is to pay homage to the fighters, and we pay homage to the fans and the people correlated with it. And, I did several shows with ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. I did a show with Chris Matthews, and I got tired of corporate radio. And at the time, I decided to break off and create different shows. And when I created The Fighter's Voice with Don Mcguire, I wanted to do a show that was like two buddies sitting down having a pop on the front porch. And when I did that, it allowed the fighters to open up and share a lot more of who they are, what they're about. It's not your stereotypical Wikipedia or Tapology show. It's a show that truly lets the fighter share who they are, not only in the sport, but away from the sport. And Cung Le is a prime example of an essence of my show. Like I said, I'm not very big on talking about myself, because I think that the sport created me. My wife told me at one time, you want to live your dream, and she let me live my dream. And through people like Cung and many other fighters, my life has been truly blessed. To be able to be on the show today is a blessing. I generally don't do video shows. I have my own syndicated show, but sometimes as old dogs got to learn new tricks, and I couldn't have thought of a better brother than my main man, Mr. Cung Le. He's truly the reason why we're here.
Welcome.
Mr. Cung Le, I appreciate you, brother, and thank you for coming on the show today.
And guys, everybody out there,
Tom, what you got?
A lot of you guys, maybe a lot of the newer guys out there and the younger bucks they don't know a lot of the old school guys. And Cung Lee, guys, has been around for a long time. He's fought in many different styles of martial arts. Mainly UFC and Strike Force is what he's known for. But Cung, you started martial arts at a very early age. You had a pretty rough upbringing, and you overcame many challenges as a youngster. Can you tell us about what age it was that you started your first martial art? I believe it was Taekwondo was your first style.
Yes, Taekwondo when I was 10 years old. I was always getting bullied at school, and my mom was a single parent. I came over here as a refugee, went to 3 different refugee camps. I mentioned 2 before, but I didn't realize when I got to California, I stayed at another refugee camp, so that makes 3 before we got to a sponsor. Then, as I learned the English language and, got through school, I was always bullied and getting beat up all the time. So my mom says, it's just time for you to, stand up for yourself. I'm going to join you. I'm going to enroll you into some martial arts schools, and you got to learn how to fight. You got to fight for yourself. And so she enrolled me into Taekwondo, and I didn't learn how to fight for myself until like really after. I just because, of course, for her to get me to practice when she could, but at the same time, she was taking any, jobs that was, she had her regular job, but then she had another part-time, and then she would take side jobs just to make ends meet. And then, making it to practice was really hard. So I never was ever able to pass like a belt test in 10 months. But I just knew that, I just got to start throwing the first punch and, not get bullied and just fight back. And by fighting back, even though I get beat up, but the same bullies will never bully me twice if I fought back and if I fought hard, whether I got my ass kicked or if I kicked their ass, I just pushed it, So
I saw. I've always been a big fan of yours, man. Like one of the fights that I always remember is your fight against Frank Shamrock. But I know there was a lot that went on before that. But that just happened to be one of the ones that really caught my eye that I really enjoyed. But I once saw a video of your mother talking, and she described that whole story, how you guys came from Saigon and how you went through the refugee camps. And at one point that you and your family, there was a bunch of you guys living in one small house. But she said that she made the mistake when you were younger. At first, she told you not to defend yourself, but she said the same thing. She got sick of seeing you coming home with black eyes and bloodied up, and then she started having you defend yourself. My question is, why was Taekwondo the first art? Was that the first thing that was around you, or the first thing that you saw, or was there a particular reason for that?
I'm going to answer about the question with my mom before I jump into the arts. But
yes,
my mom told me when you fight with someone, you the only thing that you gain is another enemy. So don't fight. So I just didn't fight, and I get beat up and try not to throw any punches back. And then when she saw me coming home with black eyes or bloody lips or a bloody nose, she says, "Fight back." Sorry, fight back. And then when then she put me in martial arts. But it's kind of like you're learning through school of hard knocks, right? So that's just kind of the way of life. Kind of like my first son, I trained him too hard, and now he doesn't want to do martial arts anymore. So it's just a school of hard knocks. And then Taekwondo for me, it's just because it was a Vietnamese teacher, and my mom didn't know anyone else, and so she went to where everyone referred her to go. So, that's where we went.
That's understandable. Taekwondo is also one of the first ones that I saw and got into when I was young. But it seemed like for me, the Taekwondo. Well, I will talk about you. You went into kickboxing, wushu, Sanshou, these other arts that all involve kicking. Did starting with the Taekwondo, did it kind of help you when you went into those other arts?
Yeah, I mean, just starting with Taekwondo, it actually just helped me be more disciplined because my teacher at the time was always about respect, family first. There's a creed on the wall. I will do my best, and we always said that every day. And then never to lie and just be that person. But like the training wasn't like really, it didn't help you combatively, right? Until I as a seventh grader, I found wrestling, and wrestling was where I was able to really get physical and get the moves that I need to do to fend against bullies, because for Taekwondo I was never consistent enough and I didn't get enough sparring in, so I didn't understand the dynamics of avoiding punches and kicks and stuff like that. But with wrestling, it was a contact sport. I can take the guy down and then pin him, and so a lot of times I just pick up guys and slam them, and that'll be it.
So now it's seventh grade, and you've got the probably some speed and agility from the Taekwondo, some discipline, that creed that you talked about. That a lot of martial arts schools now today, unfortunately, are losing this the strict discipline and the way you should treat people. Some of that's going, not all the gyms, but a lot of it is going out the door. I know you also got involved in Sambo. At what point of your martial art career did you come across Sambo?
With Sambo, it was part of the AU Nationals, and like for me, I would raise my own airfare, my own hotel to fly out. So I would try to get as much experience as possible. So when we flew out there, we're like, wow, there's another division. It's almost like wrestling. You can take the guy down, just watch out for your arms or chokes, and then just go out there and try to dominate. So I went out there, put on the blue or red gi, and wore my wrestling, and then I ended up winning a few Sambo tournaments, and I won the Sambo Nationals, and then I won the AAU Greco-Roman Nationals, and then as a junior in high school, I won the Triple Crown title, where I won Sambo, Greco-Roman, and freestyle.
Wow, what an accomplishment!
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Now there's another style out of all these styles that you've done. There's one in particular. Well, there's two that I've never trained myself. I've only seen videos and kind of heard about. I was hoping you could explain a little bit more. I'm going to probably butcher the name. Kun Tao, is that how it's pronounced?
No. What I did was Sanshou or Sanda.
Can you talk about those a little bit? Is that a kung fu style?
Like Sanshou back in the day when I was competing as an amateur was the art of punching, kicking middle, low, and high, and taking your opponent down, but then standing right back up. And if you take them down and you go down with them, you gain 1 point. If you take them down and it's an okay takedown, but you remain standing, it's 2. But if you take them from feet to back, that's 3 points. And you fight off a raised platform, which is usually about 3 feet high, and it's a 26 by 26 of a square, and then you can knock the guy out 2 times and then score 3 points every time you knock the guy out. In international competition, if you get knocked out twice, you lose that round. Then you move to the next round. If you win 2 rounds, you don't have to go through to the next round, because usually it's like like 60 countries, so you got tons of matches. So if you win 2 rounds, you advance on to the next round, and you're fighting. Sometimes you fight, up to 7-8 times in 2 or 3 days.
Man, so at this point, all these things are kind of blending together for you. You've got the kicking from the Taekwondo, you got the grappling arts all mixing together. So when you're doing the Sanshou, you look like you're very comfortable with the takedowns right there. It's kind of like a gi-less judo type of a takedown.
Yes, I mean, with the wrestling, I did it year round, and then putting the punches and the kicks and the takedowns together. I just gotta probably credit God, because he's the one who blessed me with all the skills and the mindset to do it, and everything came so easy.
Boy, those takedowns are beautiful, Archie.
Yeah, you sure as heck put everything together. I mean, look at all these skills. You don't even hear about these skills that people go out and learn anymore. I mean, but Kung, a tribute to you. Oh my gosh, I mean, that's why you're at the elite, and you've been at the elite forever. Because of your skills, and now you're taking it to another level. Obviously, you're training, in the here and now state. But yeah, I mean, that's some amazing stuff there.
Chris, I know you've been watching Kung since way back in the day. At what point did you first see Kung Lee in action?
I went and covered an event over there in San Jose when he was doing like the show shoot type stuff, and obviously him and Mr. AKA out there doing their thing. It was kind of neat because through my younger days as a kid and stuff, growing up, we had like in the mid 70s. We had Brazilian foreign exchange students and stuff, and they were doing that capoeira and actually jiu-jitsu back then. And as us Americans, we were like, whoa, what the hell is that? Because we knew like wrestling, everybody wrestled, And once we started seeing that, that was during the time when Bruce Lee was real hot. So every time you go to the movies, who you going to watch, Bruce Lee. So we end up getting involved in but it was Okinawa Kempo, American Okinawa Kempo. And we did that. And I did that, all the way till I was, I think, 19 years old. And I started when I was, I think, 11, like that. So, but when we start seeing these combat sports, I think one time actually I was at a boxing show in San Jose. And Kung, I think, was one of the guys that was there watching the fights back then. I can't even say what year it was. It's been so long. But that was really the first I heard of him. And a buddy of mine was telling me about him. And so I kind of, do a little checking and stuff on him. And when they had a show actually on TV that came on, he was on there. And I was like, wow, this guy's badass. And as everything evolved and, the MMA started getting, a little bit more into the mainstream, and we started to hear rumors that he was going to transition over. Oh, well, shit. The rest is history.
Now, Kung Lee, at what point did you decide after the kickboxing and everything that you wanted to get into MMA? Was it around the first UFCs, or what was the first MMA event that caught your eye, Kung?
Well, I was competing for Scott Coker, and Scott basically says, "Hey, Kung, you done everything you could do in Sanshou. A lot of times he was always trying to get the Iranians or the Russians to come over and then have the matches and do the world titles, but it was with visas and stuff like that back in the day. I think Scott just says, hey, let's just get the top guys from America or from another style and then just fight. So I ended up fighting for him, and I was undefeated. And then Scott says I'm going to start promoting MMA. Then him and Javier Mendez sat me down one day, and we always eat at this restaurant called Pho Kim Long, which is like a Vietnamese soup. And then so he ended up just asking me, do I want to be part of his first MMA show? It should be really big, and then they'll get someone who would will come after me and will stand with me. And then I said, sure, let's do it. So between Scott Coker and Javier Mendez, they definitely they talked me into it, and I'm glad they did. And I feel blessed that I got into the MMA game. Even though a lot of people say, oh, you got in too late, just imagine if you would have done it earlier. I just tell myself, if I look back, it doesn't help. It doesn't do anything. I should have done it earlier, but I didn't. So let's just go with what I have and what I've done, and hopefully I made an impact, in the Asian community and in the world with what I did. And now I'm actually, standing for all the fighters, over 1,200 fighters, in this lawsuit against UFC. So I'm fighting for all the UFC fighters, in the past, the present, and the future.
I love what you're doing too. I just saw that article with you coming out and fighting against, with the whole thing with the pay and trying to get the pay up, which is spot on, man. There's not enough people doing that. By the way, brother, that I call it a crab takedown, but that scissor leg takedown that you do is beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Is
it's
that
amazing.
did you learn that in Sanshou?
Actually, the Vietnamese kung fu is really famous for the scissor kick to the neck, right? And I said, that's not going to be a high percentage move. How am I going to scissor kick someone's neck? And then, so I just, after I watched the best of the best and I saw him do this, kind of different version of a scissor kick, I said, I'm going to go and practice that in training, and I'm trying to get it on all my partners. And as soon as I get it on every single partner 2 or 3 times in one training session, I know I can get it in a match. And when I went out there, I doing it in practice, and whatever you do in practice, you're able to be able to do it during a fight, because how you train is how you perform. And that's how I always took the approach, So I fought on many platforms, and I scissor kicked as many people as I could, and
Nice.
the only thing about MMA is that when you scissor kick them, your ankle's right there to be footlocked. So I didn't really try the scissor kick in the MMA game because, I don't want to risk my ankle or my knee.
So was that a signature move of yours, and do you have other signature moves that you could say are something that Kung Lee? You've been around for a while, man. What are some of your signature moves?
Well, I think everything that I was able to pull off that people enjoy and people like, like to watch. I think the scissor kick is a definitely like a trademark, because I'm able to do it from both sides. I'm able to do it from a clinch. I'm able to do it from wizarding someone off, whoever shot in on my leg. If I wizard them off, if I'm in that position and I got that, over and under, or, like the wizard in, I can actually scissor kick from all those angles. So it's I got to credit God. God's been great, and he's blessed me with many talents, and I was able to pull a lot of crazy moves off inside the ring.
Yes, you were, definitely. Now, when you got into UFC, what was actually the first MMA organization that you fought in?
Well, I fought Strikeforce. Strikeforce was promoting me during my, like the Sanshou and then the special events. And so basically they were my first. And then soon as UFC bought them out, and then, I told them that, I'm just going to retire and do movies. I met with Dana and Lorenzo, and they gave me a different contract, and I definitely moved forward and fought in the UFC.
And man, your first 6 MMA fights were wins, it looks like. Now, when you fought Frank Shamrock, because I know that you also at some point trained with Frank Shamrock, correct?
Yes.
How, had you guys trained with each other before you fought?
No, we're more like sparring partners, not trained with each other. Because a lot of times, Frank would either Javier Mendez would bring Frank over to my gym, or I would come over to AKA and give him rounds. Like I helped him before the Tito fight. I helped him before a bunch of the fights because, he wanted that different look, and that where he couldn't take someone down because I had really good takedown defense and my striking was really, really, really good. And so he's that guy that wants to challenge himself. I there's. I'm gonna go back to my first gym that I opened. I made a homemade ring. It was really strong, really stable. I just had someone who did metal. They brought in the poles. We welded the bolts together. We got rope and we made a ring. And then literally, Frank came over to my gym and with Javier, and I was I was just gonna give him rounds. I thought someone else was gonna come, but it was just me. And I remember the first opening exchange, we started going at it, and I go back to the corner, and Javier's cornering him, and I was like, man, I feel beat up already. This guy's trying to kill me. So he comes out again. I give him a lot more movement. I didn't want to get hit that much, and then he just started blitzing. He bulldozed me into the ropes and knocked one of the buckles loose, and I'm like, okay, we don't have enough guys to pop it back together. And I was thinking in my head, in a tie up, and then he kept going, no one stopped. And then the next round came around. I was like, okay, are we gonna like stop and fix the rope? No one fixed the rope. We went on for another 2 rounds until the whole ring, my whole ring collapsed. And so, that was kind of like how sparring ended. I was really winded. I was like, man, this guy, he's a beast. He just keeps coming. I was hitting him with everything and the kitchen sink, and he kept coming at me. So I was like, wow, I think he's gonna do really well against Tito. So because he was in great shape. He gassed me out, and I was in really good shape back then. So.
And he did. And the rest of his sister, he did. He beat the shit out of him.
Those were the good old days right there, man. Frank Shamrock versus Tito Ortiz.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Hey, you know what? Let me ask Don a question. Don, share with us some of the interviews that stick with you today that you have done through the years, and some of the experiences that still stick right in your mind of kind of a classic interview.
Well, actually, it was with Cung Lee.
There you go.
I had him on my show, and it was the first show he'd been on. I shot Franklin versus Lee, and I had always wanted to interview Cung, and I got him on an opportunity to get him on my show, and it was a trip because I took him from the fall of Saigon, basically kind of stereotyped it like we did, we're talking about on the show today, all the way up to his fighting career. And I thought that was one of the most tremendous shows I ever did. But, Cung Lee wanted to come back on again. And I kind of took it as a joke at first, but Cung Lee said, you better bring the fire, Mcguire, because you gave me a tremendous interview the first time. And about an hour and a half, I think, Cung, wasn't it? You called me and you kind of said, well, I'm not joking. You better bring the heat. And I went, holy crap, what am I going to do? And I opened that show with what does pride, passion, and perseverance truly mean to Cung Lee? And, Cung said it's the martial way. It's a martial artist. And that's truly what Cung is. He's a tremendous martial artist. And, I take away those moments with Cung because we have broken down so many barriers through different shows. Me and Cung have done shows in different countries together. This is the first time we've been together on your platform. But
Thank you.
I like to look at the relationship that I've created with Cung as one that is tremendous, because you talk about his ability in the sport. You talk about, what he's brought to life, but there's so much more to him. There's truly a big heart and a tremendous heart behind the warrior. And that's what my show likes to bring out. First and foremost, Master Cung, congratulations on, your engagement. You and Sunshine are tremendous. But, I would like to ask you a question that was brought up earlier, if none of you mind.
No, go ahead.
We know the scissor kick was very instrumental in your career, and you utilized it quite a bit. At what point did you realize that it was a key faction to the arsenal of Cung Lee, and at what point did you start to further develop it?
I believe when I'm training with all the same fighters and wrestlers and all the guys that are really who are really familiar with my style, they see it coming and they know what to look out for. And so I have to find different ways to disguise the technique, because no matter what, like, I enter each sparring match, I have to win each round, and I want to limit as much damage as possible that I'm taking, and and of course not hurt my training partners, but score. And even though I didn't hit him where he's like rocked or anything, I know if I would have really sat on my punch, but I pulled it because we're sparring, I knew that could have been the finisher for him. So a lot of times you're training with a lot of guys that they're not at your level, so you got to make it challenging for yourself. So I started telling myself, I'm gonna set him up so I can scissor kick him the other side, and I'm gonna defend against his takedown, but then right away I got a scissor kick. So I would give myself like a couple sets of rules or things that I have to accomplish in each sparring match, where I have to get 3 different scissor kicks in like 3 setups and 3 different types of setups with using the same scissor kick. And so when I started doing that, I just started seeing the openings and not thinking about what I had to do to set it up. Things started opening up, and that's where when I started teaching, I told my students or the fighters I was helping, I would say, when you fight or when you train and there's going to be contact, you want to blank out your mind. You want to attack what's open and defend what's coming. So because with everything that you've already done, when you see an opening, that leg or that hand or that takedown, it's got to be there for you. You can't think about it. You just got to react to it. And whatever's coming at you, you got to react to it, because if you're thinking about it, you're already going to get hit, or the guy's already going to be in on your leg, and you're not going to be able to defend it because he's already transitioned on your legs to the takedown. So you just got to go with that defend what's coming and attack what's open. And from there, I started doing scissor kicks and all kinds of different moves in training, in matches, and it was that helped me a lot.
I have one more question, if I could. Cung, you've had several mentors throughout your illustrious career, but I was one of the first photographers ever allowed in AKA San Jose. We talk about Javi. Javi's a tremendous, tremendous man. He's changed the path and the walk of many in life. What type of knowledge did you take away from that mentorship with Javi?
One thing great about Javier Mendez is not only is he that coach, he cares as as a brother, as a friend, and then as a coach. So there's like the 3 elements, right? So he considers you family, he considers you a friend, but then he also makes sure that he has to coach you, and he's not that yes man, right? And he won't say yes if the fighter will argue with him. He'll get in your face and he'll tell you the way it is. And I think that's what makes him a really good mentor to a lot of fighters, including myself. And I see him doing that with all the other fighters, and he's always there, and then when I was training back in the day, he would be on the elliptical with me, even though he's not doing it at my pace, but he's yelling at me to go faster. So I remember those times, and it was fun, good times.
Nice. Hey, Don, I have a question for you. First of all, again, thanks for being on the show with us. Thanks for everybody being here. But we know you're a photographer. We've kind of seen some of your photos, and here's your LinkedIn page. So you've shot some people that have been champions, ex-champions, and at what event or what do you which events do you get the most pride at shooting at, or what gives you that comfort of just getting there and shooting people of high profile?
Well, actually, the most enjoyment I get really isn't from the biggest promotions. A lot of people think that, but I hold 3 belts in my closet that were presented to me, one from the American Boxing Association, one from the Golden Gloves, and one from USA Boxing. And those 3 awards right there truly mean more to me than any award I've ever received. I'm a 2-time Hall of Fame inductee. Those awards mean something because it means it's the future. We're here for the betterment of the future. We're here to create and guide them down the path to greatness. And that's one of the things I went into the sport with great intent, is I always told myself that if I didn't share the future, that there would be no future. And then I kind of cling to it. I don't charge the youth to shoot any event. I just think that it's our duty, our civic duty, to give back to the sport that in my case, is put a roof over my head, food in my stomach, and fed my family. The future of the sport is truly detrimental, and that's where our heart lies. Because I mean, I've interviewed some of the greatest fighters that have ever walked on the planet, and with those guys at one point in time in their career, they were an amateur, and I'm on my fifth generation of fighters now, and I enjoy the amateurs, but I gotta be honest with you too. Uh, I like them, the prodigies, the young up and comers, the ones that are truly going out there and they show their true dedication and sacrifice and understand what it takes to be a true martial artist. Because a lot of people look at it as a sport, and I look at it as a lifestyle. Martial arts is something that not only can you be taught, but it needs to be instilled in you. And once you allow it to become instilled in you, then you understand and you get a greater aspect and respect for the sport that you're walking into and the path that you're on.
Nice.
Yeah, very nice. Well, Don, we definitely appreciate what you've done for the sport, and I'm sure a lot of these young fighters definitely appreciate you. Cung Le, what I wanted to ask you, after training in all these different styles, in one of your later interviews, I heard you talking about, you called it the Cung Le style. Now, obviously, you drew from all these different arts and kind of blended them into one. At what point in your career did you just kind of go with that? This is going to be the Cung Le style.
The Cung Le style, basically, for me, is I've trained with Javier Mendez. I trained with a lot of great up and coming fighters. When I first started with the AK, I trained with a lot of guys, but really no one really fights exactly the same. And so the coaches have to mentor everyone to their strong points and make sure their weak points are developed and get stronger, right? So I feel that it's not about the style, because a lot of people talk about, oh, what style is better? What about this style? What about that style? I don't think it's about the style anymore. It's about the person behind the style. So for me, if I throw a kick and I try to teach my son the kick, he might not be able to throw it my way, but he's got to throw it anyways. He's going to throw it his way. So it becomes his style. I'm just teaching him the mechanics of it, and however he throws it, it becomes part of him. So everyone out there, they have their own style. They fight their own way, so their mind process, the fight game or the defense or the offense of whatever situation they're in differently. Some might be the same, but they're still processing it in their own mind. So there's no same two person in the world. You are one of a kind, and the way you think and the way you do things is from you. So whenever you absorb that information of a technique of a style, you have to make it your own, because you have to make it work for you. That's why I say it's the Cung Le style. That's it.
There you go. That makes a lot of sense. So we got the Archie Tovar style.
There you go. Hey, Tom, I have a question before we go. I just want to get this one in. Hey, Cung Le, you obviously are a mixed martial artist by heart. You live it, you breathe it. And that's fighting just with your hands and your feet and whatnot. But you're also a weapon master. You also train in weapons. How did you get involved in? You're an all-around bad dude now. You know what I mean? How did you get involved there?
Fighting.
When I was younger, I did Taekwondo. I did traditional Vietnamese Kung Fu. So, you have to wield the sword, you have to wield the spear. And, then I realized that it's just like what people say is what you have here as a weapon. If you put a knife in your hand, it's an extension of your body, right? That knife. But then you have to understand the dynamic of the grip, of how it's positioned and how it's used. And then with all the racism going on, there's not a lot of people that will have the time that can even do once a week or twice a week of training or developing some kind of a martial arts background, but how many people have done like a cardio kickboxing or a boxing class? So now if I put the knife in their hand, make sure it's reverse, so when they punch, instead of hitting with the fist, they're hitting with the knife. And when they turn their body and when they come back, there's that edge. I mean, there's so many different dynamics that you can teach someone who has another skill, and you just put that weapon into their hands, and now they have enhanced themselves with a sharp blade or two sharp blades, and that gives them a better chance of survival in the world we live in, because look at what's going on, you know. And then of course, doing movies, you got to get familiar with the gun. And for me, when I take acting, I take it as serious as I take a fight. So when I'm training to, you know, to be this character, if that character is a specialist in guns, I have to go out and learn to use a gun, to fire a gun, and like all the dynamics, even to the point where now I'm even teaching how to shoot a gun. So I'm NRA certified to teach, you know, people how to shoot. I got my CCW. You know, I train a lot with different special forces guy. I train with someone who, you know, wield a knife in the special forces. But then one of my old students, Alan Mervilla, he was the top guy in America who did modern Arnis de mano. So he taught me a lot of stick, a lot about the knife. And if you hold it wrong and you stab someone and you hit like a hard object, if they have a backpack and there's a computer in there, that knife could get pulled back and slice your own hand. So by holding it in a reverse position, and even though you hit someone in the face, naturally, if you train it and your muscle has that memory, you can give that little swipe, and now not only do you punch them, you cut them. Or you know, if you really want to do damage and you don't want to hurt your hand because they have a strong head, then you're just hitting with the knife and you're slicing and dicing them. You know, and then with the guns, it's just the key thing is gun safety, always treating a gun as if it was loaded, and you know, working the dynamics of gun, be able to shoot from both right hand to left hand, transition from the rifle from one shoulder to another, how to move, how to clear, how to enter a house if you're about to engage into your own house, if you have to go and clear your own house because someone's in there and one of your kids still stuck in the house, how do you clear a house? So I just learned every dynamic that I could about being a special operator, because if I'm going to play the character, I might as well be able to do whatever he's able to do. Maybe the only thing that I won't have is the real live gunfights that he's been in. But you know, like as a warrior, as a fighter, fighting at the highest level, the transition shouldn't be that hard if your mindset is right to the situation.
So cool, man. So cool. And guys, while we still got a few minutes left here, Cung, one thing that we really appreciate about you, and I have a lot of respect for you, is a lot of old school legendary mixed martial artists, once they get out of their Strike Force, Bellator, or UFC career, whatever it may be, a lot of them, they don't really do much after, or they even make the horrible decision later on and they get back into fighting. You didn't do that, man. You pursued acting, and man, a lot of guys try to get into acting and they don't do very well. But you, my friend, you played in all kinds of stuff, man. I saw you in Walker, Texas Ranger.
You know,
playing yourself.
It's that journey, right? I feel like I put everything in God's hands now. It's like it's not my plan anymore; it's God's plan. And I feel blessed, you know, being able to talk to people, and you know, like the message I have is like, whatever your religion is, you got to have faith in this day and age. Look what's happening. Look at the riots. Look at the racism. If you turn a blind eye, you're the other side of the problem, you know. And if you're the one, you know, if you're not doing anything about it, you're not. You have to commit. You have to be. If you want change, you have to be the change. You can't depend on anyone else. Just like you can't depend on the police nowadays. You are your first responder. So if you don't know how to wield a knife or a gun, learn. Look, everyone is quarantine, you can get on Google, you can go to my YouTube page, you can learn all this stuff. There's all kinds of great gun experts out there that's teaching you gun safety from basics to advanced. You can learn all that. It's the power of the internet, right? So, and now the power of the internet is exposing the real crimes out there, not like what the fake crime about with the real news, the big stations. They are feeding you what they want you to know, but truly what you should know is what really is happening, what is coming now, you know. So if you're living in a bubble, I'm sorry, but when you wake up and you come out of your bubble, you're gonna have a rude awakening, because you truly need to engage and you need to see what is truly happening to this country, to the world, in the world. All kind of stuff going on, from kids being kidnapped all the way down to CPS not truly helping you, but they're doing it for profit. It's crazy. So
Yeah, it is, man. 120% I support that. I remember as a kid, we'd go down to Mexico usually during July before school started, or say football practice would start, whatever, and go in there for a couple of weeks. And we would watch the news, and we had family members that actually lived there, and you would see the news would come on, and they didn't hide shit back then. And I was only a kid, like 11, 12 years old. The 13 people died today in a fire, and you could see the people on fire. I was like, what the hell? Now, I don't know how many years later, with the internet, that same shit, it's real. And, it's scary, me being a grandfather and having grandsons and kids that are half, it's a brutal world, man. And, I'm up in my years, and who knows how long I'll be here. But it's just sad to see the kind of stuff that our forefathers have sacrificed for, and it makes us even like, for what the hell? Why? For what? It's crazy. I can go on there. I try to just not get into it, because I just try to keep my eyes and ears open and my mouth shut. But man, you can only do it for so long,
But again, that's like there's two sides of the problems. You're either part of the problem because you're doing these things, and you're the person who sees what's going on, but you're not doing it. Yeah, you're also the yin and yang of the problem. So there's also the right and the wrong, and then of course there's two ways of handling it. And just imagine, everyone here, I'm sure you're parents, right?
Yeah.
Everyone,
yes,
have kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every single year in America, there's 10 million kids that goes missing or something happens. 10 million. Look at that rate. And in the world, there's I mean, that I'm sorry, in America is 800,000, and in the world is like times 10 that. So just in America is 800,000 kids goes missing. So
it's crazy,
take a
dude.
crack at that. 8 million kids worldwide to 10 million kids are missing in this world every single year. Wow. Where are they going?
Can I add
you guys look into it? There's a lot of crazy shit going on.
Oh yeah,
turn a blind eye to
Epstein's Island, bro.
Yeah,
Epstein's Island. Oh,
well, can I jump in here real quick? A lot of people don't know in the United States that they think of conspiracy theories and things, but what Cung is talking about is very truthful. With Child Protective Services being the number one sex trafficker in our country and throughout the world, pretty soon, a lot of people don't realize the ships that were off the coast of California and off the eastern seaboard weren't really there for COVID patients. Right now there's Operation Rescue going on with the kids, and they're rescuing kids from tunnels, from sex trafficking. 1,800 to 3,800 kids a day disappear in the United States. So what Cung is talking about is truly, it's heart-wrenching. It's sad that there's so many, the news puts up so many smoke screens for us not to see the true issue that is in front of our eyes. And, that is truly one of them. And it breaks my heart. And we talk about topics like this on my show. Cung, you know, you're always so inspirational. You know, the thing that I love most about you is you always are a strong advocate, and we have to be the change that we seek. What is it about Kung Lee that led you to come up with that synopsis that we have to be the change that we seek?
What I think what led me is, again, my faith in the Lord, and again, it's not like what I want to do, like my plans. It's like I put it in His hands, so it's God's plan, and I kind of go on gut. You know, if I feel something that needs to be done or something has to be spoken about, I need to be that person. So my girl Spring just mentioned to me, says, Kung, look what you're doing. You're fighting for all these 1,200 fighters that they're all getting ripped off in the UFC, but at the same time you're fighting for some of the past of the fighters because they want their justice. You're fighting for the present of the fighters that are now. And what about the future? You're fighting for them too. Maybe your son will be part of them, you know, part of the UFC or the elite MMA event when he grows up. But then you're also fighting for my case, which my girl CPS and corrupt officers have kidnapped her kids. I'm fighting on that. I'm literally like hitting them with like a hailstorm of media. And guess what? The guy who was part of the kidnapping, getting CPS involved, was of course her ex. And when she found out what was truly going on with him, she tried to get away. She would never marry to him, but again, she couldn't. But now she is. His best friend is the chief of the drug task, and I put so much heat on them. They had an open investigation, and guess what? He could be serving 20 years. I feel good about that. And sure, maybe he wants to get even. Oh well, if it's my time, it's my time. What can I do? I'm not gonna live my life scared. So I'm tactical. I got Innocent Armor now as a sponsor. I'm bullet resistance clothing. If they come, so be it. You got to live your life not in fear. You got to live it like to the fullest. And the fullest means, in the world we live in, be prepared. Know your situational awareness. Know the elements of, you know, being followed or whatever it is, and teaching it, spreading it. Then you are that light and you are that change in the world. But if you just turn a blind eye and you just talk about what you guys need to talk about and live your life, you're not helping anyone else except your own cause. So where does that leave you when the time comes, and when it's your time, you know, then what happens? You know, what happens? So,
you just become a casualty if you don't do something about it.
Yes.
You know?
So you got to keep training, eat healthy, keep your mind state perfect or in a good state, and
always
stay on top of things. Yeah, Kung, I mean, you're an inspiration, brother. I mean, I just don't have the words to explain about how big of an inspiration you are and what you're doing and what you've done, and you're nonstop, bro. I mean, that's awesome. And you know, Don, you know, hopefully we didn't get to all the questions I had for you, but one of them is about, you know, all your amazing your photos. You know, we need to find a spot. Maybe you can start sharing some of those with us, or, you know, just to kind of tell people, you know, share some stories with that, man.
Well, you know, honestly, me and Chris always talk about this. Back in the early day, we shot 35 millimeters. So, you know, that's a true photographer. Nowadays, these digital imagists, anybody can be a photographer. You know, to me, I mean, a lot of my work nowadays, because I am a contracted photographer, we don't even get to keep our cards. It's owned by the promotion. Every once in a while, I'll sneak a card out and, you know, I send it to the fighters. I mean, I'm not going to hold it any secrets, but, you know, I don't know. I'm not much on talking about myself, really, bro. I'm truly not. I'm just that type of dude in life. You know, it's people like you guys that, you know, share the stories like I do on my show that I really appreciate. It's the inner workings. I really don't like to brag on myself, because my grandfather taught me, if you always talk about the great things that you've done, then you take away from it, and you're to relish those things in your heart. So I just look at myself as a man that's really done my job. I mean, you can find some pictures on my Facebook page, that LinkedIn page. I haven't used it in years, but I truly love just sharing the sport and my work. A lot of it's published, it's out there. I wish I could share a lot more with it, but the promotions on a lot of the work that we do, it's part of our contracts. And the fighters that are able to get some of my work from Mike Invicta and Bellator and different things like that, I let them share it. I don't take the credit for it because, like I said in the beginning, it's not about me. It's about giving them memories and creating a legacy for them. One thing I would like to say before we end up, because I know we're getting ready to wrap up, is I think your guys' show is tremendous. Chris, it was an awesome opportunity to be able to come on the show with you. I want to ask you guys a special favor, though, before we kind of wrap things up.
Yeah.
One thing that I like to do with Cung on my show, and we've done on many shows, he's a very spiritual man and a man that, follows God and walks that path. I was wondering if we can allow, Cung to lead us out in prayer before we end the show today.
Yeah, amen.
Most definitely, brother.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. It's always great to spread the word of God, and this every time doing an interview, Don brings me on, and I knew it was coming, and I never have anything prepared. I just say, God, please speak through me. So, in the name of the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost. Dear God, thank you for the opportunity today. Thank you for letting me wake up and be able to have a roof over my head and food in the refrigerators, and to be able to talk to these gentlemen here about my life, my experiences, and share your knowledge. And to the world that we're living in right now, let everyone be aware of all the dark activities that's happening, so we can all be prepared to fight when the time comes, and make the right decisions to help others, and to be your warrior, God. We're blessed to have our life, to have all of our experiences, and to be alive today, because look how many people don't have that chance anymore. They've passed away. So it's up to us to lead and to educate and to be the best that we could. Thank you, Lord, through love and light, faith in Christ, and always be ready for the fight that could be the end or the beginning. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen.
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 Beautiful.
Man, all right.
Much appreciated, man. I mean, I got the chills, man. This is what it's all about, man. I mean, I don't, talk too much about my religious faith and everything, but I do walk by faith, not by sight, every day, and after my life-changing experience 5 years ago, hey, I'm blessed every day I see the light, man. I shouldn't be here 3 months during that period. Now here we are 5 years later. But so I'm thankful for that. Thankful to be able to see you guys on this side versus you guys coming and just looking at me.
I have one last thing.
Yes, sir.
Like everyone I saw, everyone got into the prayer, and for all the people out there who are listening, if you have faith in God, express it, because if you're not expressing it, you're ashamed of it. So remember, if you deny God now, when it's your time and you're on your deathbed, will he be there looking at you and remember what you done and you denied him? So I don't care, whoever people out there might be like, Cung's crazy now. Yeah.
No.
If you think that, so be it. I don't care. I'm just trying to let you guys know your time, you'll never be the same. You'll never have two of the same life again. You are this person one time. So when you come into this world, you come in alone. When you leave, you're going to leave alone. But it's what you leave in this world and what difference you're going to make in this world that will change and be the outcome of for many others. And when you move on, where are you going to move on? Were you that worthy, or were you ashamed of spreading the word? So now are you going to be caught in limbo? Or if you believe in God, you better know there's a devil. That's all I got to say.
That's right.
So tell the world how much you love God and you know how strong your faith is, and the faith can move mountains. It literally can change people's lives. That's like moving mountains right there. That's just my message. Thank you for letting me voice that.
Thank you, Cung. We're gonna have to go visit you sometime in San Jose. You know, we do an Inside the Dojo. We visit gyms. We visit, you know, where people are working out and do stories from there. So we'll catch up on that one.
Awesome, for sure.
Archie will let you do that scissor kick on him.
Okay.
I'll pass.
Hey, Cung, I just want to say thank you for coming out to my brother's show and letting a different aspect of the sport get to understand who you are. I know you trust in me, and I appreciate you sharing the love with their community, with their fans, and giving back to their side of the sport. You're truly a tremendous man, and thank you for gracing their show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, hey man, thank you.
Amen.
Chris, Archie, Don, and Cung, thank you very much. Don especially, thank you, man. I don't know much about all the radio guys out there. I study fighters, but Chris introduced you to us, and you introduced us to Cung. So, Chris, thanks for that. I appreciate that. Hopefully, we'll see you on the show more often, Chris.
Oh, that's the plan, man. We're just starting.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, hey, guys who are watching right now, we're doing back-to-back shows today. Right after this show directly, we have BJJ Jiu-Jitsu champion Jeff Nolasco joining us. He's a black belt under Tinguinha from Gracie Baja, and we're going to learn a little bit about some jiu-jitsu stories and some jiu-jitsu champion stuff. So everybody, thanks again, Cung. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Chris.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you guys another time, Cung.
All right, guys. God bless.
All right. Hey, Don, Cung, I'm going to catch up with you guys, and we'll follow up, Don, and I'll look for you here in a bit.
All right, sounds good, brother. God bless.
Thank you.
Amen. Take care, bro.
All right. Hey, Tom, we're going to go ahead and disconnect, and then we'll reconnect so that we can have a new broadcast. And if we have a new broadcast, that'll be able to have a new recording, and we can separate these two.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm going to sign off. Thanks a bunch, guys. Thanks, everyone, for Cung Le. My gosh, what an awesome guest. But they each have to be their own show for the respect.
I could listen to that guy all day.
All right. I'll send you the invite. We're going to do this again.
No, that was really cool, guys, man. That was really fun, dude, having Cung Le on here. A lot of you guys may not even know who he is, but, dude, that dude is a freaking legend right there, especially you guys that watch MMA, but you may not know about the kickboxing career. We didn't really get into it because there was so much to talk about. That dude has like a 17-0 kickboxing career. He was the International Kickboxing Federation light heavyweight world champion. We didn't talk about that. We'll get him back on the show again, though, for sure. Thanks again, Chris, for hooking us up with Don. And Don, thank you for hooking us up with Cung Le. And hopefully we'll get both you guys, or we'll at least get Don back on with some of his other connections, because I know Don has connections for days out there in the MMA, boxing, striking, grappling world. So, guys, stay tuned. We're going to be back on in just a few minutes.
That's right. All right, Tom, we're going to tune off, and we're going to tune back in here. Take care, guys.